So welcome. We're here today to talk about enterprise agility, the ultimate shakeup. My name is Ola Chowning. I'm an ISG partner and digital fellow. Enterprise agility, what is it? Really, it's the ability to nimbly and quickly, and these are key, nimble and quick, adjust to market or customer influence. And most organizations have this need, of course, but you don't need it everywhere within your organization. There are some business functions that don't change to that extent, that don't need the same level of change, don't need the same rate of change, don't need the same nimbleness. So agile enterprise and those organizations who ascribe to agility are seeking to be agile in places where the business needs them to be agile. And those are usually those areas that are really influenced by market or customer conditions and potentially competitors. So if we think about that as multiple rates of speed or multiple rates of agility, that's another good way to look at it. So when we think about how businesses are starting to embrace agile enterprise, what does that mean? Some of the tenets that we see happening in business organizations is all around this idea of resiliency. And that in its most simplest core is the expectation and enablement of change. So I'm expecting change. I'm expecting it to happen. It's not a surprise because my entire operation is geared toward that expectation. So when we think about the typical agile tenets and how most organizations today are really looking at how they enable their business, a lot of it's about putting the customer at the heart of decision making. If I put the customer and their needs first, and I think about their value first, I'm probably getting feedback from them on a continual basis. And so I'm expecting the customer to tell me things that will result in change. It results in me needing to make adjustments, small or large, to be able to meet those customer needs. Using smaller, cross-functional, and empowered teams. This is also a core tenet of agility. What this really is getting at the heart of is having these very empowered groups that have a multitude of different roles in them. And in a business context, what we mean by that is I have a very specific need that I'm fulfilling for my customer, and I don't need to go to different functions to be able to fulfill that need. I'm going to have within my own team, specific to that particular customer need, all of the functions, the business functions I need. So I'm going to have my own members that are marketing experts and sales experts and delivery experts and maybe finance experts. So instead of going to a horizontal function where I'm probably going to be leveraging resources across that team and therefore having to wait, which is going to slow down my ability to respond to customer needs, instead, my cross-functional team has all of those capabilities right within it. And most of these teams are essentially persistent. So what that means is that if I'm looking at a particular business capability and I have a particular value I'm offering to my customer, then I can quickly respond not only with how I deliver, but with how I sell, how I might market, what kind of promotions I may have. I'm really doing things, placing the customer at the heart of decision making is important, but it's really hard for me to react to those customer needs without having those small empowered teams. And those teams are what we like to think of as loosely coupled. Look, I may not need a full-time marketing person on my team, but I should have someone who's available to me as a marketing expert when I need them. And so during the time when I need them, I really do need them to be persistent and coupled with me or pointed in my same direction. The other thing that we see as well, and one of the core tenets is being open to innovation, and not just technology innovation or business process innovation, but any innovation. And that innovation I need to expect not to be perfect. And so we often think of this as a test and learn method, where I may not have the perfect way of resolving what the customer's needs are, but let me try things, let me test things and learn whether that solved the customer problem or not, rather than spending a huge amount of time doing some planning. Most organizations are starting as well to manage their funds as a portfolio of investments. So here again, if I have a specific need for a very unique need for a customer, I'm needing to make sure that I can quickly obtain the investment that I need. And those investments need to shift because my customers' needs are changing all the time. So I need those investments as well to shift. Measuring and tracking the business value and how I'm creating business value is core. It's all great to say I'm going to respond to my customer needs, but I need to respond to my customer needs in a way that drives value. So just being able to change a button from red to green is not as important as changing a button from red to green that also drives value for my customer. The other thing, of course, when I expect change is do things in small increments. So while I need to think very large, I need to think across the entire organization with some of these agile enterprise tenets, I need to start small. Start with small teams, start with specific areas of your business that are really critical for you to achieve this sort of sense of agility, this ability to respond very quickly to your customer or to the market. Resiliency is about expecting change and enabling change when it does happen, whether that change is an increase or a decrease in your expected work. So what are companies doing? How are they enabling the agility, especially when you think about how do I put the customer at the heart of decision making when my customer goes through a journey and my customer is engaged with me at different stages of that journey, and they have different needs during stages of that journey. So a really good example of this, as an example, would be something we probably all know about, is a trip to the grocery store. And we have a lot of different ways of going to a grocery store. We all shop, hopefully. We select products. We need to check out. We need to bag our products. We need to load our vehicle and deliver back to our home. How we do that can be very different depending on the channel that we use. Particularly in this post-COVID world, many of us are probably either getting our groceries delivered, maybe we're at least doing online shopping. And so how we're performing functions like shopping and selecting and checking out and even bagging are different depending on the channel that we use. And these are really about our customer experiences. So a grocery store may decide that they want to organize their enabled teams around subjects that drive business value. And a grocery store may find that the subjects that drive business value are these stages of the customer's journey. Those different stages of that customer journey are how they typically organize their teams. So if I think of shopping as a subject, I will have a team that is organized around the subject of shopping on behalf of my customer. And so the sales and the marketing and the finance and the delivery and all of the different options that I offer to my customer is going to be really focused around that specific subject. I'm going to prioritize work related to that subject. I'm going to make decisions related to that subject. I'm going to measure my business value related to how well the customer experience is around shopping. If I do that and I have a team for every single subject in my customer journey, my end-to-end experience for that customer should be what I want to do, is delight the customer. And it should be a delightful enterprise. Other organizations are looking at things instead of in the customer journey mode. They're really looking at things around perhaps something like a market or a customer segment. You see this happening in hotels where you have value shoppers who are looking for the cheapest hotel room. Maybe you have premium shoppers who are looking for things like membership points or benefits that they're achieving. And I may treat those premium members in their journey and their customer experience a little differently. So organizations and companies are organizing their teams, these small empowered teams, in different ways based on their particular business models. But the two most common ones are experience-based and market or customer segment-based. So those teams then that I point to a specific subject, as I was saying before, typically contain things like marketing and sales, finance, account and customer management, delivery and operations. Even digital and technology capabilities may be very different in our grocery store example between the shopping experience in a digital channel, i.e. what I do on my phone, versus the shopping experience that happens when I'm in the store. But essentially, it's the same activity. I want the experience to be similar. In fact, when I go to the grocery store and I'm a customer who's maybe going to the grocery store one week and shopping in person, maybe the next week I go and do that on an app. It may behoove me to have my shopping structured in a similar manner so that when I'm in the app, I see potentially the categories of grocery items in the same way that I would if I were in the store. So all of these customer experiences and different customer segments are establishing how the enterprise is viewed in the marketplace from a customer experience perspective, so that no matter how I'm engaging with my customer, again, using that grocery shopping experience, I have some commonality of what I'm attempting to get across to the customer. So that network of specific and leveraged capabilities is really key to my ability to be able to react quickly, with nimbleness, with agility, to be able to respond to my customer needs. There are some common challenges, and the common challenges are, obviously, if I don't address them, they become enablers if I address them. The biggest one is there's a huge culture change related to enterprise agility. And when we say culture change, think of this as the behaviors. If I establish small cross-functional teams, just calling them empowered doesn't actually make them empowered. I need to have leadership that actually enables that empowerment. I need to make sure that all of the functions are pointed in the same direction, that my marketing resources are acting in the same way as my sales resource or my delivery resource. And so that cultural change is pervasive. It goes across the organization, but it is a key enabler and one of the most common challenges we see in organizations that are attempting their agile transformation. Corporate policies and processes can also get in the way because they're usually not formulated in that sort of a methodology. They're usually formulated for a very hierarchical state. Your decisioning and finance structures will often be similar. Another core enabler is executive sponsorship. If I don't address these challenges, I can call myself agile. I can say that I've got small empowered teams. But what will actually happen is I'll disable my ability. I'll create friction in my ability to respond quickly to customer needs and customer challenges. And so all of my agility and my nimbleness will in fact disappear. Shifting to that agile enterprise is often looks a lot like moving from hierarchy, functional orientation. All of my HR people are together, all of my marketing people are together, all of my sales people are together, and they're all working on similar or the same things, to a very different looking organization and workday for many of our workers. Self-organization and a flat hierarchy, the movement from command and control types of leadership to servant leadership and visionary role modeling are all very common in what we see as organizations move. Having a sense of human engagement and a trust factor between all of these different constituencies is another part of the culture change that we really need to go through in most organizations. And while I still need to focus on rules and I need to avoid mistakes to some extent, in order to respond very quickly to my customers, what I really need to do is at least have a bit of risk tolerance and the ability to recognize I may not always get it perfectly right, but I'm doing it in a very fast way in order to respond to my customer. And I may not get it perfectly right the first time, but I'm usually moving the needle at least a bit. And over time, iteratively, I'll be able to get to the point where I am delighting them, and that's really what I want to do. So why is enterprise agility thought of as the last reorganization? You know, organizations like to go through reorgs every couple of years because it's just that time. And reorgs often elicit for your staff and the members of the company this sense that things are changing. But in an agile enterprise, the real sense that we want is that it's always changing. And it's never going to be exactly the same day in and day out. And I need to build that change muscle in my organization to be more open to changes that are going to come along. Those shakeups, those are norms. Those are things that are unspoken but have been around for a long time. This is part of the culture change. We've got to enable that agility by recognizing that change will occur and putting the right things in place to make the change easy to effect. Part of that is decoupling the affinity of workers from an org structure. So again, if all of my salespeople might indeed work for the sales organization and a hierarchical structure, but I need to decouple them from an affinity perspective and make their core affinity to their specific subject. I need them to be focused, in the grocery store example, on shopping. I don't want them to be focused on marketing across everything. I want them to be focused on marketing for shopping. That's really what I need them to focus on. So decoupling the affinity of workers is key. Empowering those teams around those specific subjects that provide value to customers. So one thing we've seen organizations be challenged with is we do want subjects that provide value to customers. I could have a subject that's called, I don't know, wake up every day. But if that's not providing value to my customer, it may not be a subject that I actually want to have a team kind of focused around. And finally, I've got to be able to retain some functional capability affiliation. So while we want to decouple the affinity of the marketing person from the marketing group as their core affinity, I still need to keep affiliation with their colleagues in marketing, because I still want them to bring that sense of belonging. They still need a career path. It's usually going to be within that core competency area. And I also need them to bring lessons learned back from their colleagues. So while it seems counterintuitive, I need to decouple their initial or their core affinity from that function, but I need to make sure they're retaining that functional ability. So if I decouple them from that org structure, then I can move the staff members around. I can move the work around without having to reorganize. I can keep my organization relatively stable for far longer periods of time. Those are the core tenets that we see enabling agile enterprise, enabling organizations to respond to disruption and respond to customer needs. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.